Our next story is from Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made history. He is the first sitting Israeli Prime Minister to be charged with a crime. Netanyahu has been indicted in 3 separate cases of corruption, and he was hauled into court today. He started giving his testimony. The trial is expected to be a long, drawn-out affair. It will take up a lot of his time. And remember, this comes in the middle of a war. So what led to this situation? Why is Israel's judiciary so eager to proceed with this case? And will Netanyahu actually face the music once all of this is over? Let's start with the alleged crimes. Benjamin Netanyahu has been charged in 3 cases. All of them are corruption cases. The first is Case 1000, also known as the Gifts Affair. Netanyahu and his wife Sarah received gifts from 2 businessmen, Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan and Australian billionaire James Packer. These gifts were worth almost $200,000. They include pink champagne, cigars and jewelry. Now, Netanyahu insists that these gifts were just gifts from friends, but the police believe otherwise. They say that there was a quid pro quo. Netanyahu pushed a tax exemption law which benefited overseas Israelis, including Milchan. He also got help with a US visa. The Israeli police say that this constitutes fraud and breach of trust. That's the first case. The second case is Case 2000, also known as the favorable coverage case. Netanyahu is accused of making a deal with a media baron. His name is Arnon Moses. The Israeli Prime Minister wanted favorable coverage. That is the charge. In exchange, he promised to undermine Moses' competition. Again, quid pro quo. And again, the charges are fraud and breach of trust. The last one is Case 4000, the regulatory favors case. This too involves favorable media coverage. It features the owner of an Israeli telecom company who also controlled a news website. Now, Netanyahu allegedly wanted positive coverage on this website, so he allowed the telecom firm to complete a merger deal by passing regulations and red tape. And for this, he's been charged with fraud, breach of trust, and bribery. And the bribery charge could mean 10 years in prison. Now, all of these cases are quite old. They were filed way back in 2019. That's 5 years ago. But today was the first time that Netanyahu ended up in court. He's been quite busy, you see. A lot has been happening in all these years. The court started questioning the witnesses when the cases were filed in 2019. Then in 2020, the Wuhan virus pandemic struck, so legal proceedings were delayed. Then in 2022, Netanyahu won the election, he became prime minister, and he began trying to dismantle Israel's judiciary. This led to mass protests against the prime minister and his plan to overhaul the Israeli judiciary. These were the scenes in Israel, but all of that stopped in October last year when the Hamas attacked. And then the subsequent war in Gaza. Israeli courts agreed to give Netanyahu some time, first to deal with Hamas, then to fight the Hezbollah. But now the courts are tired of waiting. Gaza lies in ruins and a ceasefire is in place with Hezbollah, so the judges decided that enough was enough. It was time to Netanyahu to appear in court and start testifying. Netanyahu disagrees, of course. He tried to get all of this postponed. The courts gave him 1 extra week and told him to appear on December 10th, that is today. In the meantime, his ministers tried to delay proceedings too. They said taking up Netanyahu's time would bring, and I'm quoting, would bring severe harm to Israel's security. They cited the recent chaos in Syria. Israel has deployed troops there and is bombing Syrian military infrastructure. The minister said that all of this needed Netanyahu's undivided attention. But the courts weren't having any of it. They said Netanyahu must appear 3 days a week. He must be in court 3 days a week, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And for 6 hours each day. That is the court's order. And so Prime Minister Netanyahu finally complied today. He took a defiant stance, though, and proclaimed his innocence.
Regarding the trial, I heard in the media that they say that I want to avoid the trial. Have you heard that? Do I want to dodge? What a sad thing. For 8 years, I have been waiting for this day. I have been waiting 8 years for this day to present the truth. For 8 years, I have been waiting to finally blow up the deluded and absurd charges against me.
Blowing up the charges will take time. This case will drag on, maybe until 2026. So Netanyahu will be busy shuttling between the courtroom and the war room. And the Israeli people are divided over this. His supporters say that this is ridiculous, that he shouldn't be distracted like this during a war. But his critics say it's about time.
We are here to shout in front of the Prime Minister of Israel, enough with the war. Bring back the hostages. Stop the killing in Gaza. Stop everything. You have no mandate to continue the war. A Prime Minister accused of crimes must declare himself unable to serve.
Netanyahu's detractors accuse him of extending the war for personal benefit. They think he wants to keep the wars going so he doesn't have to face the courts. But remember, the situation in West Asia is still volatile. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? Perhaps Israel will start fighting a new enemy and Netanyahu will get exempted again from court appearances. But for now, it seems that the wheels of justice are in motion.